Hello Year 9, once you have your completed design in your template, so you should have something that looks like that with each section filled using your tracing paper template, right? Making sure that it's a mirror image. If for some reason your sections do not match up, you might have to go back and edit that slightly. Now, for the next step, you will need a water pot. I would say no more than a quarter full. A brush, again I would say probably no bigger than a size 8 or size 10 brush, and you will need a watercolour palette. Now you will have the opportunity to work with both watercolours and acrylics. This will allow you to see what materials you like to work with better, how differently the paint mixes and moves as you use it. Now, with each section, it will be entirely watercolour or entirely acrylic. You will have 4 sections of each, and what ones you decide to use, watercolour or acrylic, that is entirely up to you. The first thing I recommend you do is that you label your sections. Now, as you can see here, I have extended the lines of each of my sections out so that I know where it starts and where one ends, so I don't have any overlap. I recommend that clockwise you start with red, then we go to red purple, we go to purple blue, blue, turquoise aqua or dark green, then we go to lime green, yellow and orange. Alright, so we have 8 sections and these are the sections that you need to pop in there. Make sure they are in the correct order. For example, we wouldn't have red going into purple and then going into yellow. That wouldn't make sense following our colour wheel. So making sure that you have the correct order there before you get started. Now, in terms of colour, each section is going to be one single colour. However, you will have a variety of tints and shades within that colour. Now, with your watercolour palette, I'm going to start with the red. With your watercolour palette, you can see here, a little bit dirty though, I have a dark red and I have a warm red here, which is slightly more orange. So my warm red is slightly more orange based, my darker red is slightly more cool toned. Alright, you can use both of these. Now, in terms of colour, again, each section within your slice should be a different tint or shade. Now, in terms of adding colour, make sure that you test it out on scrap paper first and foremost. So when it comes to colour mixing, you want to either have some scrap paper like I have here, or again, you can paint around the outside of your colour wheel. You will be cutting this out and presenting it nicely in your book. I'm going to show you a few different ways in which you can mix your colours, starting with red. So, I have a little bit of water on my brush. I'm dabbing it off onto the side of my pot. With watercolours, they are obviously activated by water. If I had a dry brush and I tried to paint on there, nothing is going to come off. So I need water in order to activate these paints. The more water I add, the lighter or the more washed out my colour will be. So you can see here I have a good amount of water on there. I dab a little bit more off. So the more I mix my brush and my paint together, the thicker my paint is going to become. Therefore, it is going to be that little bit darker, a little bit deeper. Hopefully you can see that there. So I have a lot more water in this colour here, and I have a lot less. I've mixed more of the paint together. So there, straight away, just by limiting the amount of water I have 2 different tones. I have 2 different tones of my warm red. I can then do exactly the same again with my darker. Again, this one's a little bit more cool toned, can come off a little bit pink, but that's okay. So again, you can see I have a good amount of water on my brush for that colour. I'm mixing a little bit more paint for this one, therefore it should be a little bit darker. And again, you can see that there. So with your 4 sections, all you need to do is add or remove water from your brush in order to get a few different tones. Over and above that, you can utilise the black and you can utilise the white that is in your palette. Obviously, the more white I add, the lighter and lighter my tone is going to be. Typically, I would recommend that you take a little bit of the colour and pop it on top of the white. Again, you can mix that in. And you can see the more water I add and the more I mix it in with my white, the lighter my tones are going to be. And in the same respect, it will happen with your black as well. So I take a little bit of the black, I can pop it onto my colour, and again it's going to come off that little bit darker. The more black I add, the darker it will get. Now with the warm red, kind of orange red, when I add black, it will start to have a little bit more of a brown tinge. When I add black to my darker red or my cooler red, it starts to have more of a burgundy-like tinge with those colours. Again, you can see how quickly it is to start to amass a variety of colours here. When you are applying colour onto your colour wheel, I would recommend that you use a slightly smaller brush in order to outline your shape, and then you can use a slightly bigger brush then to fill that up. So I'll just show you a little example here. So I am going to have some of my warm red. Again, I want it to be relatively dark, so I've mixed in a little bit of black. I'm trying to get rid of some water. What I am then going to do is I am going to carefully outline my section, being very, very careful not to cross over into my red purple. So make sure that you are looking to where you paint. Again, you might be able to notice that I am holding my brush relatively far down. This gives me a lot more control over my paintbrush. If I was holding it a bit further up, it might flail around a little bit. So again, if you want a little bit more control, hold that further down. Again, you can use a slightly smaller brush in order to outline that, and again just neaten that up slightly. You can see I have my colours here. Now it's not a great video quality here, believe it or not. These are two different colours you'll be able to see from the next slide that I put up.